we go.
All right. All right, so what we have here in the paper you have in front of you, measures of central tendency and dispersion. And what that is what you normally know as mean, median, mode, and range, okay? And so we're looking at here, and it says use the set of test scores below for exercises 1 and 2. So we have 2 questions here, and it says the range of a data set is the difference between the greatest and the least data value. So the greatest value on here is 100, and the least data value on here is 58. So the way you find the range, you want to know the difference between them, and difference always means subtract. So you would subtract those. So 100 minus 58 is 42. So the range is a score of 42 points. So from the person who scored the best to the person who scored the least, it was 42 points away from each other, okay? So the next one says, suppose the score of 58, so suppose this score here that we use changed to 71. So that's no longer a 58. Now we have a 71 on here, okay? So it says write the new, so we have no 58, but we do have a 71 added. So it says, suppose, all right, write the new data set in order from the least data value to the greatest data value, then describe how the range changes. So now they just want us to write it from least to greatest. So from least to greatest now I have 68, then the 71 that we added, then the 89. I'm going to cross them off as I record them. Then a 92, then a 95, and then my 100. So we put them in order from least to greatest, the new data set, and describe how the range changes. Well, before we go and actually put the information in how to find range, the largest number, so here's the largest number, 100, minus the smallest number, which is 68. How would you describe the range would have changed if we dropped the lowest number and added a number higher? You would think the range probably is a smaller amount, like less than 42. And it is, because you have now 100 is the greatest, minus 68 is the least. So you have a 32. So your range is now 32, whereas before it was 42. So now you have less in between the highest and the lowest. Okay, so your range decreased. Your range went down. So this is just a little exercise in range. And remember, so range is just how much difference between the highest and the lowest. There's some words that we want to look at that might be new to this course this year. And so the word we're looking at here is outlier. And so an outlier is a data value in a set that is much greater or less than the other values in a set. So the main idea, an outlier disproportionately raises or lowers the mean. So that's in relationship to what we were looking at up here. If we had an outlier that was, let's say the lowest score was a 12, that would be so far different than all the other ones, it would create a huge range, more than we see here. So it's this word disproportionately raises or lowers the mean would be the average, which we'll talk about in a minute. So for an example, in the data set 5, 7, 8, 5, 109, 1, and 2, the data value of 109 is called an outlier because it's almost so much different than the rest of the numbers. It's way out there, okay? So here's, use your vocabulary. Some people living in the city, some people live in the city. Others live in the outlying suburbs. circle all the words and phrases below that have the same meaning as outlying. So if they live outside the city, let's say, the areas, suburbs that are outlying suburbs. So we have distant, centrally located, outside of the boundary, or remote. So what would be, we can circle all of them that make sense. Does it make sense that it's distant? Yeah, because in the city, everything is clustered together, and outlying suburbs is like somewhere over here. It's away from all the rest. So we can say it's distant. Centrally located. I wouldn't say centrally located is a good way to describe outlying, because centrally located means they're all together, more central with the norm, you see? So I would not choose that one. Outside the boundary? Yeah, I would choose outside the boundary, because here we have city, and this is way out there in the outlying suburb. And then we have this word remote. A remote location is a location that's off somewhere, kind of maybe undisclosed or a little more private. So I would use that one too, kind of outlying over the other way. So outlying suburbs could be a remote area over there. So the only one that does not work well here is centrally located. It's not a good option. And then lastly here it says circle the outlier in each data set. So let's take a look at number 4. We have 28, 26, 3, 20, and 19. So which one do you think would be the outlier in this group?
3.
The 3. Because the 3 is definitely much different away, much further away than these here are more clustered together. Okay? And number 5, you have 599, 702, 586, 1102, and 601. 1102. 1102 would be the outlier in that one because it's like way away from that group. Because over here you're going from 586 to 702, and then this one way out here. Okay? So continuing on. So here are just brief definitions, again, of mean, median, and mode, in case you have forgotten. So mean is like your average, okay? Your average, you find that by you're gonna add all the data values together, then divide by how many there are, how many different data values there are, or individual data values. So the mean describes the middle of the set that does not have an outlier, because most of the time a strong outlier is going to affect your mean. Not most of the time, all of the time. The median is the middle of your data set. So you would line them up from least to greatest. If there's 10 values, let's say if there's 10 values, you're going to go 5 in from one side, 5 in from the other side, and you go smack dab in the middle. The only problem with that, let's say you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. If I come 5 in this way, 5 in this way, but there's no number right here, this is your median. So you're going to take the mean or average of the two center numbers. So 5 and 6, the middle of 5 and 6 is 5.5. So your median or your middle number, even though you don't have a middle number you could have circled, you're going to just figure out what is the middle number, which would be 5.5 because you take the average of the two middle numbers. Now, if you had, let's say you had 1 through 5, and I wanted to find the median, well, I come in 2, I can circle an exact middle number that already exists because I have an odd number of data values. So when you have an odd number of data values, you'll get one in the middle that you just circle. But if you have an even number of data values, you're not going to have a smack dab in the middle. You'll have to choose the two middle ones, get the average or the mean of those by adding them and dividing by 2. Here it's easy to say 5.5 because it's 5 and 6. But if this was 17 and 22, I mean, you can still kind of figure out the middle, but depends on your data set. So just so you're aware, that's how you get it if there's an even amount of numbers, okay? And the mode is the one that just happens to occur the most. So for here, if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, there's a number that's repeated more times than the other numbers, and that's the number 4. The mode is the one that just happens to be on the list a number of times more than the other numbers. And you can have more than one mode. Because a mode, you could have like the number 7 on there 3 times, the number 4 on there 3 times, and the number 3 on there 3 times. Each one of those would be a mode, all right? So that's a brief overview of mean, median, and mode. So number 6 is asking you, draw a line from each term in column A to its description in column B. So column A has median, mode, and mean. Column B, often called the average, middle value when the data are ordered, item that occurs most frequently in the data set. So like we mentioned, the median here is your middle number. So we would match that up with here, the middle value. Median goes to middle value. Over here, the mode, well, looking back, that's the one that occurs more than one, like the most frequently. So I would call that here an item that occurs most frequently in the data set. I'm like trying to. And then the mean, we can either, the mean, we can just go here, often called the average, okay? Right in the back, or you can grab another pencil, either or. All right, so coming down here, one way to summarize a set of data is use a measure of central tendency. Mean, median, and mode are all measures of central tendency. So sometimes we're going to use one instead of another for a purpose, because it's how do we want to see our data. Just like sometimes we might use a bar graph, sometimes we might use a circle graph, sometimes we might use a line graph, depends how we need to see the data. Same thing with this measures of central tendency. So it says here, consider the bowling scores 104, 117, 104, 136, 109, 113, and 104. What are the mean, median, and mode of the scores? Which measure of central tendency best describes the data? So we're going to do this, and we'll see which one best describes our data. The first thing we want to do is write this information from least to greatest. So the lowest number is 104. Then I have another 104, and a third 104. Then I have 109, 113, 117, and then 136. So the first thing they want us to do is find the mean. So the mean, we have to actually add up these numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different numbers. So I'm going to put that in parentheses over here, is that we have 7 numbers. That's my 7 that you can hardly tell is a 7. And I'm going to grab a calculator, and I'm going to go ahead and add all those numbers together, each one of them. So it's 104 plus 104 plus 104 plus 109 plus 113 plus 117 plus 136 equals. So this entire thing equals 787, if I did that correct. Then, so I have to divide by how many numbers I put in the calculator, which we counted to be 7. So I divide that answer by 7, and I get the number 112.4. I'm going to just put it in. It's 112.4 to 857, on and on. I'm just going to put 112.4. Otherwise, I can just call that 112, let's say, if I estimate. So I'm just going to put both of those there. All right?
I understand.
Thank you. Good luck. The next one here is a median. Well, the median is the middle number. Well, since there was 7 numbers, we're in good shape because we're going to be able to just count over. So here's 1, 2, 3, and then go backwards. 1, 2, 3. And now I found one lone number in the center, which is 109. You see? So I have 109 is the median. That's the number that's just in the middle of the list. Okay? And then the mode is going to be the number that occurs the most frequently. So the bowling score that happened the most is going to be the 104, because 104 is on our list 3 different times. There's no other number that occurs 3 times or more than 3 times. Oh, that's the only one. So that's our mode. So it says here, circle the measure of central tendency that best describes the data set. Well, looking at these 3 numbers, you would say, do you think between 104 and up to 136, this is our range, and then given our set of data scores, bowling scores, which one of these looks most representative of all the scores together? All right, so it might be the mode that happens the most. It might be the median, because it's the center number, or it might be the mean, the average of all of them together. What would you choose to be the one that represents the most, or which one would you eliminate right away? Good, mode. I would eliminate mode in this choice because even though there's 3 of them, there's still other numbers that are much higher. You know, and they go all the way up to 136 and everything. So I would kind of take that one out and say, I don't think that gives me the best idea of the center of these numbers. Okay? Now, this is a tricky one between 112 and 109. I would lean towards 112 and use the mean on this case because I think it represents all the numbers as a total better than the 109 being the middle number. Now, if we had other numbers over here, not all 104s, I would say maybe the median. But because every number on this side is all 104, there's no other range there, I would say that's not the best method on this one. So I would choose the mean or the average on this one, which makes good sense. If you said, well, from 104, a bunch of 104s, a 109, a 113, 117, 136, the measure of central tendency there, the closest we can get to an average is like 112. I think that's a best estimate of this information. In another problem, it might not be the best way. So that's why we learn the different ways, is because you'll have to choose which one is the best method to show your information. So I would have made that one the mean. All right?
They gave my phone.
Okay, we're going to stop there because the bell will come up soon.
Thanks.
Hey,